Super excited to have this guy on the podcast today. He is a British rapper, podcaster, fitness guru, and the British record holder for women's deadlifting. Zuby, so good to
Yo,
have you on today.
happy to be here. How you doing?
Good, good, good. And for those of you who don't know, I guess this was about a year ago, correct me if I'm wrong, but Zuby, he basically called out the sort of audacity of the progressive notion that biological men do not have any kind of physical advantage over biological women. So he made this little video of himself just, let me go and do the women's deadlifting record, really without trying. I mean, like, you're a fit guy, you work out,
Yeah.
but this wasn't something you had been working up to for months or years. And he just broke this record, no problem. And he said, and I briefly identified as a woman while I was doing it. And that really triggered a lot of people. And I'm sure you got a ton of hate, but it's just so funny. And it's, and you're a musician, of course. And so
hmm
you'd think, like, if anything, you're going to blow up over, some of your
Over your
art,
music.
maybe
Yeah, yeah.
something you've created, but it's similar to comedy in that, like, you just never know what's going to take and what's going to give you notoriety and recognizability. So, and I've been watching a lot of your other interviews, and I just think that your voice is truly like one of the bravest out there right now.
Thank you.
And I just wanted to get your take. So I'm sure you've been following all the protesting and the rioting and
Mm-mm.
the craziness going on here in the United States. Do you think that Antifa has full on ruined the message of Black Lives Matter?
Wow. Okay, we're going right in. Okay.
Oh,
Wow.
we talk about like food first, or we can talk about your fitness
No,
regime.
that's all good. That's all good. No, you've asked the question. Wow, what is even going on? I mean, it's weird. This thing, it was like there was this spark. I think that stuff has been building up clearly for a long time for a lot of people. There's been a lot of rising tension, having people locked up in their houses for 10 or 12 weeks or whatever it is, certainly is not aiding to that.
Yes, I've
So,
had certain friends say that a lot of this is because a lot of us are horny and we've been indoors for 3 months. A lot of us not locked in with any significant others. A lot of us just with our own right hand and right, like nothing but time. And a lot of people don't have to be at work. They don't have to go to bed early,
yeah,
so they can, you know,
yeah.
fully show up for all this.
Yeah, definitely. There's been a lot of tension building up, and then of course, there was the tragic killing of George Floyd, which everyone, momentarily, everybody was. I think everybody is still on the same page regarding that, pretty much. But
Of course, yeah.
that spark has just spiraled into something, related in some ways, but totally different in other ways. As we speak now, there's people not just in America, in the UK, in Europe, people are taking down statues now, and
Yeah, they're
setting
throwing Christopher Columbus into the river. They're throwing him into the
exactly,
fountains.
yeah,
He's swimming away. He's sinking to the
exactly. They're they're,
bottom.
they're doing it in the UK now, in
Um,
Poole, which is not far from where I live. I've just seen that they've had to take away a statue because people were planning to target it, to remove it, etc. So it's happening in the UK, Paris, Berlin. Just like I said, it's gone way beyond the initial incident. I think some people are sort of seeing this as the chance for some sort of cultural revolution. And honestly, I think it's a shame that it's been, I know certain people have their grievances or whatever, rightly or wrongly in my mind, but I think it's a shame that it's all kind of switched so quickly and the direction and focus has been lost. Like I'm a very solutions oriented person. And I'm totally on board with the idea that, yes, of course, we want a more just society. There's nobody who is, advocating for police brutality, right? It's not like,
Nobody likes to see
no,
violence. Nobody likes to see these videos of
exactly,
people getting the shit beat out of them. Like, doesn't matter
exactly.
what side you're on. That's really upsetting to
Yes,
everybody.
exactly, right. But people are almost very quickly trying to paint it as if, if you don't support all of the craziness, including rioting and looting and more people being killed and all of the other stuff that kind of people, I think a lot of bad actors are trying to, use this as an opportune moment to do all that kind of stuff. I think that's a shame because it takes away from the core message, and it's bad for the people who are, you know, there are, would like to think the majority of people who are protesting or demonstrating are you know, are legitimate. I'm sure I'm sure we agree on the core point. You know, there may be some other things we disagree with or whatever, but, you know, people have a right to protest. People should be protesting this specific incident. But, yeah, I just think that it ends up being kind of a distraction, right? Because
Yeah.
instead of talking about what we were talking about 2 weeks ago, the conversation has now become, do you think that the statues should be removed? And what are your thoughts on this? And what are your thoughts on that? And some people are like, yeah, it's good to have all these conversations. And you know, I'm not sure. I think that if everybody had a united front and was like, okay, we want to reform the police in our area because this is a problem, then I think stuff would get done a lot more efficiently and effectively. And I also think it's a shame that, you know, far more people have now died as a result of the ongoing violence than died in the original incident with George Floyd, right?
Right. And they don't get their names on a t-shirt.
No. And
Yeah.
they're just viewed as collateral damage, right? People aren't even talking about them. I was thinking about this today. I was like, man, like, this is crazy. I don't know how many more people have died. It might be like 15 people or something.
And this guy,
And
was it David Dorn?
David Dorn, yeah.
He was like the former, I think he was a former police officer,
Yeah.
retired police officer. He was
Mm-hmm.
protecting just a building. And like, that might've been the most upsetting video that I've seen so far, is
Yeah.
he just was like shot someone. And the guy that's filming him was like, yeah, this was over a TV, basically.
Yeah.
And he's just like,
Yeah.
you know, dying
Yeah.
on the sidewalk.
It's tragic. And, you know, I think it's sad that that is, you know, having one tragedy lead to another 15 or another 20 or another 100 is not good. So you know, me personally, I'm not someone who likes the idea of, oh, well, it's justified somehow, or, oh, you know, it's just some, and I'm like, come on, man, people can't be out here saying Black Lives Matter and then another 7 black people die in
Like, what would
the
you,
riots,
yeah.
and people are like, oh, well, never mind that. Like, let's not go off topic. And I'm like, well, what was your topic? What was the slogan you just told me?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of my feeling on it, which is, doesn't seem to be the sort of mainstream normal one, but I just think that people have I think people are losing the plot of what this was supposed to be about.
And what I've been hearing so much of is, well, we have been peacefully protesting for 400 years and no one's been listening. So things have to get violent. And this is justified because, oh, when Kaepernick was kneeling,
Mm-hmm.
everyone thought that was, you know, a big deal. Well, now here's a real big deal. And it's almost like, yeah, that the violence and the rioting and the looting is justified because nobody was paying attention before.
Yeah. And look, this is the problem. I mean, people want to think that everyone has the same goal here, and they don't, right? So some people don't actually want equality. Some people just want revenge. That's the reality, right? There are people who are, yes, you know, we just want equality, justice, fairness, etc. But there are people out there who just want revenge. They just want the boot to be they just want to be the ones wearing the boots, right? When the stuff goes down, they just want to flip it. They don't want to level the playing field. And that's the problem, because unless you can separate those people out from any sort of movement or good cause, then it's very easy for a minority to kind of pollute everything. I mean, we've seen this. Like, why are people angry at the police? It's not because the 700,000 police officers or whatever in the US are all evil. It's because there are a couple, there's a tiny percent, there's a segment which are, you know, bad cops, not good people, perhaps racist people, you know, people with all kinds of issues. And so, as we've seen, the actions of one cop or of a handful of cops can make people sort of paint very broadly in that direction. But this can also happen the other way. So the people who are rioting and looting take away from the peaceful protesters. It dilutes the message. It makes people angry and lose focus on the thing. And this can happen in anything, because that's kind of just how the human brain works. It's not totally rational, but yeah, that's kind of what happens. And look, I'm not ever going to justify criminal activity ever, right? I can understand people being angry. I can understand people being upset, being mad, etc. I get mad too, but me being mad doesn't mean that I just get to go and burn down the store across the road or blow up my neighbor's car or attack somebody on the street, right? Me, if I go to court and I tell the judge, yeah, but I was angry, that I don't remember that ever being a good defense to defend
Yeah.
criminal behavior individually nor collectively. So, I think clearly people want change, people want solutions, but we need to not get lost in this mass hysteria of, whatever it takes, however many people need to get hurt, how many businesses we need to destroy, how many livelihoods we need to ruin. And ultimately, a lot of it is quite self-destructive, because if you look at the places where a lot of that is happening, it's happening in those same communities which need the help to begin with. So if people are talking all this, and then I'm seeing videos of oftentimes Black or ethnic minority business owners who have these small businesses or whatever, who have now been looted and their places have been ruined. I just kind of look at that and I'm like, it's not even my country, it's not my place, it's not my whatever, right? But I'm just like, come on, like this doesn't make sense. This detracts from what I think is originally a good message. So can we cut this crap out and focus on the good stuff? That's kind of how I see it.
I saw a photo of a woman who had put up on the front of her storefront, like, I'm a single mother, please don't loot my business. This is all I have. And that was like also pretty heartbreaking to see.
Yeah, it's sad. You don't want, like I said, you don't want one tragedy turning into 100.
And that's the thing, is like, how many thousands of people die every year from a bad surgery or something? And we're not defunding like all surgeons, all doctors. We're not, people die in cars. Lots of people die in cars every year, but we're not like, let's stop with cars. Let's do trains and mass transit. So I just don't know what wholly defunding and breaking apart the police would look like.
It's like, I feel like the adults are letting the toddlers just throw a tantrum and no one wants to rein them in. That's kind of what it feels like the world is going on in the world right now on multiple levels. So
just let them tire themselves out. Like, they'll run around.
Yeah, things are just running on emotion, right? It's not rational. It's not reasonable. You've just probably, I don't know if you've seen these videos I've seen clips of people on the news who are there talking about how they should abolish the police. And then someone asks a very basic question of like, okay, well, if someone like robs you, and what do you do?
Then
and
what?
they're like, oh, we haven't thought of that. Or there was one lady who said, oh, the fact you'd ask that shows that you're talking from a position of privilege or something. And you're just like, what on earth?
People get, all sorts of people get robbed.
You're just kind of like, what are you talking about, right? Like, it's not a complex idea why abolishing the police is a bad idea. Like, that's not, I don't know. It's silly. I'm just surprised it's getting any traction whatsoever, but I think that's because the adults don't want to just like tell the toddlers to shut up.
Because if the adults tell the toddlers to show up, well, you're a white supremacist, you don't know what we've been through, you're wrong, clearly you haven't been listening, and it's almost like, are they backed into a corner? Are they afraid? Or they're just like, well, there's no right answer here.
Look,
so
people need to collectively man up. I don't know what the term is for women, but people need to
just no, it's still man up. I think that's all encompassing. Yeah,
people need to stop being cowards. People need to just stand up for what they believe in and be willing to challenge people no matter how much they scream and yell at them. Yeah. And stand by their principles and not expect everyone else to just do it, because we're clearly seeing if people don't do anything, then stuff can go mad very quickly.
Yeah. You mentioned that there are bad actors within the movement, sort of higher powers at work here. And I looked into it myself, because I see that a lot of people on social media, without really thinking about it, are posting and reposting, you got to donate to Black Lives Matter. This is the only way we can make a difference. And it's like, Black Lives Matter actually goes straight into an organization called Act Blue, which has funded Democratic super PACs and a lot of the former presidential nominees. And this is all information that you can find. Yep. 186 million went to Bernie 2020, 119 million dollars went to Biden for president, 93 million went to Elizabeth Warren Presidential Exploratory Committee, 78 million went to Pete for America. I mean, who's giving money to Pete Buttigieg? Lots of people. 78 million.
That's not small amounts of money either, is it?
43 million went to Amy for America. And I'm sure this is all, and then plus think about all the international money that's being raised right now, just in the last, wow, it's been maybe just a week since George Floyd was murdered. So people don't know that this is like, especially if you're a conservative or Republican, like, well, this is what I have to do to be a good person. I got to throw money at Black Lives Matter. And I just don't think that most people know that. And it's like, and then people have the audacity to say that Black Lives Matter has nothing to do with politics. Yeah. When it's like, look, the money is being funneled.
People have been bamboozled, and I've been trying to wake people up to this, and it's not easy because they like the name so much. The name is so effective that I have joked that if I ever like create some sort of evil organization or something, I'm just gonna like name it, I don't know, like Love, Peace, and Diversity or something.
That way you can't, there's no denying it. You're like,
and then if anyone says that they have an issue with my organization, then I've got them cornered.
It's pretty brilliant, and it should only really flare up every 4 years or whenever you have something in particular that you want to dismantle.
Yeah, no, I've in terms of the movement and in terms of the organization itself, it's something I did look into years ago, and had a look at their manifestos and things they believe, etc. And I'm like, okay, I don't rock with this. Like, this is not what you're sort of selling it as. Now I understand that most people don't know it's an organization, and a lot of people have just sort of caught on to the slogan and the mantra, and these things get conflated. I've kind of dealt with this very directly now myself. With people not understanding my criticisms of it, but yeah, it's a weird one. Like the whole thing is just very shady and weird to me, and I don't know. Part of it hits me. I think part of it also hits me as quite immoral, because you're taking you are tricking people, right? You are taking something that is, people just think of it as this one thing on the surface, but then you're going away and you're donating to presidential candidates, or you are trying to achieve certain goals, which probably a lot of people who are giving you the money aren't on board with, and stuff that could actually be very potentially damaging to the actual communities and people that you are claiming to represent. If you do want to disrupt the nuclear family, you do want to disrupt capitalism, you do want to defund the police, that's not going to hurt the people who don't need the police as much, or who live in safer or richer areas, or who are in gated communities or whatever. That's going to impact those same people where they already have existing issues with too much crime. So just the idea that you're going to remove the police to remove police brutality, and all of the crime is going to magically go away, and the criminals aren't going to just like have a field day.
Oh my gosh.
I don't even know what, it's like, I don't even know what kind of line of thinking or total lack of thinking goes on in someone's brain to think like, okay, yeah, that's a good idea. We've got a high crime neighborhood, so what we're going to do is remove the police. No alternative. Oh, we're also against the citizens having guns too. Like, we don't want them defending themselves. So we're just going to remove the police, and then like just let the criminals have the guns. And you're just,
because the criminals are always going to find a way to get the guns.
They've already got them.
They've already got them.
They've already got them.
It's wild to think that the people who are not already vulnerable are going to suddenly not become vulnerable just because there's no more police.
They become more vulnerable. Like, just such a basic situation, literally, like, people can say whatever they want about the police, but we all know, right? We all know, like, if someone, if some stuff is going down, who are you calling, right?
Yeah.
If someone is there, like, trying to break into your house or is trying to hurt you, you want to get to the phone and call the police. Like, that just doesn't exist. It's just like, okay, you're on your own. It's like, okay. And then even in terms of bringing people to justice, like, no one comes to justice because you can't arrest people because there's no police. So
police. The only handcuffs you can get are at sex stores.
the whole
stock
concept,
up. These are fuzzy, but they'll have to do.
I don't know. The whole concept, I'm just like, and it's the speed at which, it's just amazing. Like, in the past 2 weeks, the speed, like, COVID is just gone now.
COVID got upstaged in a bad, big way.
Like, COVID is just gone. Like, the speed at which it just went from, don't go outside, Zuby, you can't go to the gym because you're going to kill my grandma, to like, yeah, we can have like mass demonstrations with thousands of people. And in fact, if you don't go out, you're now a bad person
It's
because you should be
wild.
out there
And in
on the
fact,
street.
like
And it's just like,
doctors are recommending, no, you can't have a party with 10. Keep it to 10 or less for a party. But if you're in a protest, then you can be around
it's
100 or more people. So I have friends making
so
jokes like, oh, I'm holding a protest in my backyard, BYOB, who wants ribs?
it's just so bizarre. It's just so we're just living in such an illogical time. It's so weird. It's like,
I
I
think they
don't
would
know.
rather create a new drama than to apologize for the overhyping of the coronavirus.
Yeah,
I think
maybe
that's
so.
easier to do.
Yeah, I don't know. Whoever is planning this, whoever's writing the script. I mean, what happened to the murder hornets? Like I feel
The
like we
murder
skipped.
hornets, yeah, they lost their mojo. The murder hornets, I don't
Yeah.
know who they murdered. Maybe they're just regular obese hornets. Maybe they're regular hornets. Yeah, that was like hot for not even a full week.
No, not long at all. I mean, I'm. Oh gosh, I saw the funniest thing today. It was actually real. I thought this was a joke. I was like, just when I thought 2020 couldn't get any more ridiculous, I saw a thing about oh gosh, what country is it in? It's one of the Asian countries, and
We
they
gotta we
are.
gotta make sure we get this right, or else we're gonna get.
Yeah, no, I'm not even going to say the country,
Um.
but which there's a country where they're having concerns about there being locust swarms.
Oh wow.
Okay, and do you know their potential recommended solution? Okay, they want to create an army of 20,000 ducks to combat the locusts. Right? And I saw this picture. It was literally like a duck army. It was like thousands of ducks. And I was like, right, so we've now got duck armies fighting against the locust horde, like in real life.
How is that gonna every other video I see involving ducks, it's some dude, scooping out ducklings out of a sewer. It's like those are the duck videos that I'm
Oh my
seeing. I don't know
gosh.
how good of an army they're gonna make.
Yeah, well, apparently ducks are very good at eating locusts.
Yeah. All we need is some
So,
stale bread and a
yeah.
vision.
So,
Wow,
yeah,
that's
so
wild.
that could be the next thing, like, the government sends out the ducks and they fight the locust and
Yeah.
I was like 2020, I'm done already with this year. Like this is
Yeah. Let me know where I can donate to the ducks. Zuby, I think there's clearly a lack of conservative Black voices in the media. And because I listened to your interview with Candace Owens, and it was really, truly amazing. And anybody who's listening, I highly recommend, because it was like really moving. And it was, I feel like it was really important. And you both kind of commiserated over the fact that you have both been called
Oh boy.
um,
Yeah.
Uncle Tom and a Black white supremacist. And I mean, that must get to you. That must, I mean, I can't imagine, I've had people come after me for, jokes that they thought were racist. I've had people, try to cancel me over, oh, you can't make fun of this or that. You can have this or
Mhm.
that joke. And so it's like, I know what it feels like to get sort of like pummeled online, and people are trying to cancel you. People are calling up your, comedy clubs, trying to get you unbooked.
Yeah.
And most of the time I go, okay, these people are kind of got a lot of time on their hands, and these are not really comedy fans. These are not the same people that were actually going to
Mm-hmm.
come to the show. They just are in cancel mode. So I brush it off, but honestly, sometimes it does get to me, and like it's hard to never read any of the comments. It's hard to like
Yeah.
never tune in with that. So I'm
You want
just
to see the
wondering,
good, you want to see the
yeah,
good stuff too, right? So,
has any of that, ever gotten to you?
the only time it's ever a problem is if it comes like close to me from like, I don't know, somebody I actually know, right?
Like
If
a
it's just
friend or
random, if it's like random avatars online, I'm at this stage. I'm 14 years deep in the social media game that like whatever some random anime avatar wants to tell me or whatever, it's like whatever, block. Or sometimes I'll turn it around and use it to my advantage. But yeah, no, the only time it's ever like got into a level where it's like caused any kind of problem or bothered me is if, yeah, I don't know, if something comes through like friends or family or something like that, then that's that obviously hits at a different level if it's someone who I actually care about. And normally that stems from, that's rare, but normally that stems from some kind of misunderstanding or miscommunication where it's not even directly coming from them. Someone else may say something to them, and then it gets eventually kind of gets through to me or whatever. But ultimately, like I'm not someone who's super duper emotionally sensitive at all. I'm actually the total opposite. I'm literally in the bottom 2% of the population in terms of what's called neuroticism, which is sensitivity to negative emotions. So 98% of people are more emotional than me. But yeah, you know, it's it kind of comes with the territory. Also, I'm also kind of used to it. Like you become numb after a while. You know, I'm not someone who, like, all that's happened is the volume has gone up. Really, that's all that's happened, and I'm learning how to deal with the volume because I've got such a reach now. I mean, I was looking at my Twitter insights today, and this month, last 28 days, my tweets have done 82 million impressions.
What?
Yeah,
Wow.
82 million in 28 days. And, you know, normally it's like 60 to 70 million. So like 3 million a day or so.
Shit.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot, you know, it's a lot. And, you know, I've just last week hit 250,000 followers. It's now like gained another 12,000 since then. And so it's just going and growing and growing, and been getting a lot of media appearances. I was on Fox News, Sky News, BBC last week, like doing all of these things. So I'm actually
now the Chrissy Mayer podcast. It's like,
yeah,
woo, you're
yeah,
all
Chrissy. Heck yeah, let's do it. Yeah, no, so it's been weird, you know, it's this transition. I'm in this transitional phase right now where I'm kind of like understanding that I am already or I am becoming a public figure, which is kind of what I wanted. It sort of happened in a different way from what I anticipated and expected. But, you know, there's no guidebook for that. There's no blueprint. So I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to do things. I'm going to get some things wrong. Some things are, you know, sometimes I won't even be wrong, but people will think I'm wrong, which is quite a different thing. So there's a lot to deal with all of that. And, you know, I'll adjust, I'll adapt, I'll get used to it. I'll work out how to do things, and see what I need. But, yeah, it's tricky. But in terms of the direct question, in terms of stuff like that, it's kind of like, you know, it comes with the territory. It gets boring as well because I've already heard it all, you know, and at some stage people just become like these, like NPCs basically. It's just,
yeah.
you know, it's kind of like, oh, you know,
Regurgitating the same.
you think you're the first person. Yes.
Yeah.
You think you're the first person to say this to me kind of thing. And it's just like, okay, another one, you know, just, it doesn't matter. It's inconsequential. And ultimately, those aren't people who, you know, they're not fans anyway. They're not people who are fans or potential fans. So if you're never going to support me or buy something for me or give me a word of encouragement or even like my music or listen to my podcast or whatever, why on earth should I care about your opinion? Like, I don't even know you exist. You know I exist. I don't know you. I don't even know who you are. So come out my mentions. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter.
And has your family been more or less, you know, pretty much supportive and on board with you? Or is there anybody close to you who's really giving you a hard time or that's believes very differently from you? That's been tricky.
Generally it's fine.
Yeah.
You know, it's tricky that I do have a very big family. And so, you know, the way I look at it is everything's got the bigger the audience, the more translations you get. So when you've got a smaller audience or less people sort of watching you or listening, then you can afford to be a little more cavalier because there's not so much splash damage and range. But I've realized, you know, as my thing has grown and grown, it's like, oh wow, like I can tweet something from my sofa and next thing I know, like there's people all over the world, like people, you know, just something just goes and it's like, whoa, like I don't even know how it reached this person or that person or whatever. And,
It almost feels like this, like a slot machine. That's how Twitter feels to me. It's like some of them are just, but then sometimes it's like, and you're like, oh,
yeah. And you know, I know my intention, I know my context and whatever, but other people don't. So, you know, you end up with a million different translations and some people totally understand what you got. And someone else coming in with no context or who doesn't really understand your thinking process totally thinks something different. And then they tell, you know, it's just, it's weird. I don't know totally how to handle that in the future, but I don't want to take my edge off either.
Yeah.
Like I have my principles, I have my beliefs. I'm not going to silence myself. I know probably a lot of people would like me to silence myself, but at the same time, more people and myself, I'm not going to do that. And, and I know I don't look, it's not like I'm some crazy radical or something. And
No, yeah,
I'm
your
out. Yeah,
beliefs are
yeah, that's
very doable, and like not. You're asking, it's that your beliefs align very much with myself. And if anyone who listens to like Jordan Peterson or anybody, you're big on, I think, self responsibility.
yeah, yeah.
The whole making your bed idea, not like, even if you have come from bad circumstance, to not identify with being a victim if you've been unlucky, if people have screwed you over, to not put on the like victim sweater, because then that's your lens through which you view everything that happens to you. If you don't get something, it's because of how you look, and the system is rigged, and what's the point of trying,
Yeah, exactly. And the most flack I get is for not embracing that narrative and not seeing myself that way and not seeing the world that way. And it's weird how many people want to pull me into that way of thinking and pull me into that lens, when I'm just like, no, like why would I want that, and why would I want to promote that to further people? I mean, sure, you may think that's doing them good, but I don't believe so. And we can disagree, and I'm not going to stop you. I'm not going to silence you. So
exactly.
We can both do our thing. And I know my message works. Like I know I've had we've talked a lot about, negativity and flack, but in terms of the positivity and the praise and the messages I get every day, like, thank you, Zuby, I'm glad you exist. Like,
and
dozens.
A lot of them privately, right?
Yeah,
I've heard you say that there's more people in your DMs.
Gosh,
like, no, actually, you're saying
grief.
a lot of true shit.
A lot of them. And I've had some that are like amazingly positive. I received two emails last year, two separate people who both told me I helped them specifically in their battle with cancer.
Wow.
Right? Like, and this is unconsciously, right? I didn't know they were watching me and following me and listening to my stuff and listening to my music. But I had two separate people tell me, like, yeah, at the beginning of the year, I was diagnosed with bone cancer, and I kind of was giving up hope and whatever. And, I saw something that you wrote, and I was listening to what you said here, and I've been listening to your music in hospital, etc. And it's really positive and inspiring, like long emails. And he's just, I just wanted to say thank you. Like, you're amazing. I love what you do. God bless you. And I'm like, look, after reading that, who cares what the random
yeah you cured people, Zuby. You know what I mean? And that just speaks to like the kind of magicalness of the mind body connection, because I thought they were about to be like, yeah, I followed your fitness regime, I got your book,
I get that too. Yeah, that too.
I'm doing trans deadlifts, like I'm doing it. But you're just like, it's your positivity that people pick up on, and they put it in their system, and it like has healed. It's like positivity has healing qualities without sounding too much like a white girl who's into yoga.
Spiritual, but not religious.
Yeah,
type. Right. It's amazing, and that's what my goal is. That's why I wanted to become a musician, to have an impact on people. Right. I always say my long-term lifetime goal is to have a significant positive impact on over 10 million people. Right. That's what I want to do before I go. Through my music, through my words, through my works, everything I do, that is my long-term goal. So anything that gives me an indicator or a sign that I'm moving towards that, then I am happy. And look, not everybody's going to like me. My message is not going to resonate with everybody. Some people won't like my delivery or my tone, or they won't like this. It's like, fine. Look, there's billions of people out there.
Some people hoping you would have more of a British accent,
That too. Gosh. Yeah, I get criticized for that too, and I'm not joking. I get criticized a lot for not sounding British.
You could probably turn it on if you really wanted to, but yeah.
Yeah, but that's what would be fake,
right.
And you know how people, we live in a time where people are like really uncharitable in terms of how they interpret stuff and how they jump to conclusions, right? So someone will hear me having this conversation, and they'll jump and be like, why is Zuby pretending to be American? What's up with the fake accent? And it's like, you could take 3 seconds to find out, why does Zuby have his act, right? And you'll see very quickly, oh, he grew up in Saudi Arabia. He went to an American school. Oh, he didn't even grow up in England, right?
Mm-hmm.
But people would rather just take like the worst. People do this with everything. People take like the worst possible interpretation of what you could have said and run with it. And it's very, I find that very frustrating because I think I'm someone who, I kind of do the opposite. I give people the benefit of the doubt a lot. So, you know, if you say something and I'm like, I'm not sure what you meant by that, I will interpret it in the best version, not like the worst.
You'll cut people some slack.
Possible
You
version.
won't say,
yeah.
"Oh, Zuby is not being his authentic self, so we can't
Yeah.
believe a word he says."
Yeah, or just
pretending.
just ask a question, right? Just ask a simple question rather than kind of jump to some crazy conclusions. So, yeah, I don't know. It's we live in weird times. What can I say?
We do. How do you think that you have tried to put your message into your music? You know, we know how, you know, you're great on interviews and podcasts, and you're, you know, very articulate about what you believe and why. How do you think you do that in your music, or how do you think that can be done through music in the future?
Yeah, I've always done it in my music. So going back to my very first album, Commercial Underground, which was like, man, 2006, that's actually crazy. Like, it doesn't seem like that long. But yeah, I've always put a positive message in my music. Just by, you know, because that's where I come from, right? My music is about me. I'm not like a different person when I'm rapping, or I even go by the same name. I don't suddenly become, you know, MC Killer or whatever. It's like, no, Zuby is Zuby. So my music has always been true to me and authentic, and I am a positive person. I've always wanted to tell my story and inspire other people through it, and just put out whatever thoughts are going on in there, and put them out there. So I do hope people can, you know, listen to my lyrics and get something, you know, get some motivation out of them, get some inspiration out of them. That's really what I want people to feel when they listen to my songs. I think in some songs it's a lot more obvious than in others. Like sometimes you just want to like rap fast and say some cool punchlines and whatever, you know, just be like, yeah, like I'm a dope rapper kind of thing. But then, you know, you've got the other songs where it's like, okay, this one's more introspective and it's particularly about this, and, you know, it's supposed to be more uplifting, etc. But yeah, I've never put out, you know, like a lot of people associate rap and hip hop with negativity, and I don't have a single song in my catalog which someone could listen to and be like, oh my gosh, like this is really, you know.
And also, you've said that you don't like, you're not big on profanity. Like you're not a person
It's
who.
not big. I don't use it.
You're just,
I don't use
yeah.
it. No, I don't.
But you
I don't
won't
use it
ever deny someone. Like you'll like, you guys, everyone else can curse as much as they want.
I'm not the speech police. I'm a free speech. I'm a free speech absolutist, right? I don't even support hate speech laws, right? I don't support hate speech laws. I don't support blasphemy laws, anything like that.
Because I think it actually gives it more power. You know, it's like they are just words. People forget they're just words. If you don't like the person who's saying them, you can follow somebody else.
Yeah. Look. I'm pretty libertarian leaning, and I don't think that everything needs to come down to laws and government if it's words, right? You know, like it's a different thing. Actions are a different thing, but if someone says something that is, even if it's horrible, even if it's like terrible, right? It's out there, and there are potential social consequences to that, and people will be confronted, etc. And I don't believe most people don't say horrible stuff just because there may be a law hanging over them if they do. Like I don't think that's, you know, in the US people do have true freedom of speech, right? But it's not like people just run around screaming obscenities at each other because you know, lo and behold, people aren't actually that terrible. People are generally, you know, want to be able to, you know, live in their communities and keep their friends and keep their family, etc.
Yeah.
And they don't just harbor all of this hatred. So yeah, no. So I have no interest in policing other people's speech, but I police my own. And I don't really need to either, because a lot of that's just not even in my active vocabulary. You know, I know every cuss word, but I just don't use them.
You can express yourself without that.
Yeah, like I don't censor myself. It's not like it's not like I'm talking to you right now and I'm trying not to cuss. It's just like I don't cuss.
Yeah. You're just a good boy.
Of course, Chrissy. Of course.
Do you find, I remember in a previous interview, you said like when the US catches a cold, the UK coughs.
Oh, when the U.S. sneezes,
Oh, damn it.
the UK catches a cold.
Stays incoming. Have you found that has the UK begun to censor non-liberal voices like Republican, conservative, libertarian, the way that I've noticed that they're
Hmm.
doing very much in this country?
Um, Culturally and socially, yes, and it's been like that for a while. Like not on like a legal level. I mean, we've supposedly got a conservative government in place right now. My biggest beef with the conservatives is that they're too left wing for me, but
Hmm.
conservative by name anyway. But I think it depends on where people are in the sectors. I mean, I'm a musician, right? I'm in the world of music and arts and entertainment, which is like super duper left leaning, which is like fine in itself. Like I don't care. It's just like you've just got to let, as long as people are actually tolerant, right? It can't just be like one rule for you and another rule for me or whatever. Like
Yeah.
that's not cool. I would never not work with someone because, oh my gosh, they're a liberal. Like what? Like what kind of crazy nonsense is that? Like, oh, I can't work with that person. They voted for Jeremy Corbyn. It's like,
Isn't that
what?
wild? Like that has nothing to do with
It's
what
like,
you're making.
no, and it has nothing to do with their their character or their heart, etc. Right? Like we can have different views. Like I've got people in my own family vote different ways. Like okay, you voted for that person, I voted for, so okay, that's it. Like we can't talk. Oh, you know, you, oh gosh, you know, and it's crazy when you see these things of people saying, I mean, I've received messages from people who are like, yeah, you know, my family found out I voted for Trump, and now like my mom won't talk to me, and like my sister has disowned. I'm just like, what? Like, what
Yeah.
is going on? Like, what is
It's
wrong with
really
people?
sad.
Like, yeah, like this is ridiculous. Like, that's not even that's like obscene. You know
It's
what I mean?
so none of their
Like,
business. And like
no.
why should it matter? Especially if like they're really your family or they're really good friends of
Yeah.
yours. Like I lost friends because they thought I voted for Trump. Like I wasn't as into politics or current events. Like really, even 6 months ago. I
uh,
only recently started like looking behind the veil and like following the money trail of the elite and like going into the rabbit holes and like really at this time last year I don't know, when I voted I was like, I don't know, I don't like Hillary, I'm not really the biggest fan of Trump. I'll vote for Jill Stein, who
yeah.
like taking a lot of her money from her campaign. I don't know, bought a hot tub with it. I don't know what she like stole a lot. I didn't know what the fuck I was doing, and I had friends who were, but because I wasn't like out there with a
Yeah.
pussy
Yeah.
hat and
Yeah.
talking about how much I love Hillary Clinton, people are like, well, you voted for Trump, and they ultimately were
You're
not
with us or against us.
quality people. I mean, like they
Oh.
wrote me off, like stop talking to me, stop talking to my boyfriend. Like, well, we
It's
think
like
you
a
voted.
cult. It's like a
It's
cult.
wild, and there's always new rules.
Yeah.
Every day there's new.
Yeah. And it's crazy because again, it comes to that like lack of charitability, right? It's like, look, if someone has a view that like I'm really surprised by or confused by, which is rare actually because I come across all of them, but my initial thing is like, oh, that's interesting. Why? You see what I mean? It's like if someone is super duper liberal and they have a friend or a family member who voted for Trump, right? And they think Trump is awful. The obvious question should be like, oh, that's interesting. Like, why? Like, what's your reason? What's your thought process?
What do you like
What
about
was behind
him?
it? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Rather than assume the worst, rather than think, okay, it must be because you're a white supremacist, right? That's the only way. It's the only thing I can imagine. It's
I
like,
still haven't
what?
met one. I still haven't seen one.
No,
Where
no,
are
no,
they?
no,
Where are
no.
they
There's
hiding?
yeah, them and the fascists. Like
Hmm.
hear about them all the time, but I'm yet to meet I've met socialists, I've met liberals, I've met conservatives, I've met. No, I haven't met a fascist.
Hmm.
I haven't. I keep hearing about them, but I've never met. Like, oh, what are your, what are your, a bit of fascism. Like, yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of like these invisible boogeymen out there that aren't there, and
Because
I
if
don't know.
if we can be separated and chopped up, then
Mm,
we're I guess easier to govern or you know, if you're less successful, if you're more dependent on the government, you're more likely to just go along with whatever and not question. And
yeah, ultimately, look, I just think people need, in that regard, I think people just need to chill out, because there are, you know, politics is kind of interesting, but there are other things in life, and ultimately whoever is in the White House or whoever is in Parliament is not going to determine whether I am happy or sad or successful or unsuccessful in like they would have to act, like they would have to do something crazy for it to get to a stage where it really bothers me. You know what I mean? Like I've lived long enough now to see multiple different governments and different prime ministers and different presidents in the USA or whatever, and it doesn't matter. Like this is the dark secrets. It doesn't really matter. Like it doesn't really change stuff that much.
You're still going to get up every day and like you still have to live
like,
your life.
I was in the States last year for 9 weeks, and if it weren't for social media and the occasional thing I saw on the news or thing I heard, I wouldn't even know Trump was president. Like, you know what I mean? It was like,
interesting,
you know, and I remember going to the States when, funnily enough, I'd been in the States when just before Obama got, just before I think he'd won the election, but hadn't yet. I think it was that period between winning the election and it was just before the election. It was just before the election. It was October 2008.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, I was actually in Chicago at that time. So I remember like all the hype and this and that. I remember all the stuff with Bush, and it doesn't change. You know, I remember.
Excited about Obama? Were you a fan of his?
At the time?
I was too.
Yeah, I guess so. I wasn't I wasn't super into politics, but I thought, this is cool. You know, I still think he's, you know, there are admirable things about him. I don't pedestalize any of these guys, right? Whether it's Obama or Trump, but like none of them are, you know, they have their flaws, they have their weaknesses. Some of them are more entertaining than others. And again, it's not my country, so I'm a little bit detached.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, but yeah, I don't know. Like, but yeah, I mean, Obama was, I think from a cultural perspective, he was important and certainly an iconic president, you know? He'll
not bad looking, you know, that's why I voted for him the first time.
That's not my wave, but you know, and I do think it was important to have, you know, a black president, right? To show that is possible. People did used to say that was never going to happen, that it was impossible, etc. You know, boom, like that door is now open. People know, you know, I already knew it was possible personally, but maybe a lot of people did not. And someone goes and does it, and you know, that's cool. In terms of like policies and everything over the 8 years, again, like I said, I'm not convinced that anything massively changed, you know, like, because I remember the Bush era and people were like, oh, you know, Bush is bad, Bush is terrible, this is Obama, you know, hope, change, It was like, okay, this is going to be the one. 8 years later, I don't know. And then, you know, Trump's now had 4 years, and I don't know, like, this is why I reached the sort of conclusion after a while where it's like, look, yeah, you can care, you can vote, you can whatever, but fundamentally, the stuff that is going to lead to your success and where I think people should be channeling their energy and their emotions and their actions, etc. It's not running around on the street like doing all this stuff. You know, maybe there's a time where that is valid, but you know, like you mentioned the pussy hat thing, right? Like those women's march. It's like, what are you even marching for? Like you don't even know. I'm seeing people videos of people going around interviewing people who are marching, and they get 10 different answers as to why they're here. This one just hates Trump. This one is here for this. This one's here for like. There's no. You just wanted to get out and get some social media pictures and.
Oh yeah, and then eventually the pussy hats were not allowed because they didn't represent women of color. They also didn't represent women that don't have vaginas.
Oh my gosh,
AKA deadlifters.
There's just so much foolishness there, and it's just like I don't know, but yeah, I view it. I what have I said? I said this a while ago. I said politics is like WWE for adults.
No. Yeah.
Right? You know, it is as well. I want to see Trump doing his rallies or giving some of these speeches or whatever. And it's like, they've even got the people in the back holding the signs like it's like Stone Cold or The Rock or something. And he's there like delivering his lines. And I'm just like, this is just WWE. Like, you know, everyone gets all amped up, and you've got the good guys,
Oh
you've got the
yeah, the
bad guys, and
tweets.
you got
Yeah.
the, I'm just like, this is this
Instead
is
of a round
WWE.
card, it's like the latest tweet like going
Mm-hmm.
around. Yeah.
Yeah, with 75-year-olds instead.
Mm-hmm.
Less body
Well,
slams.
what would you say to the person who feels like deeply feels that they are victims and they don't know how to pull themselves out and they
Mm.
don't know where to start, and maybe you can't convince them fully politically yet, or I mean, what would you say the baby steps are to just for the person who feels like hopeless and everything's bigger than me and
Mm. Um, Firstly, stop watching the news if you do.
yeah, it does,
If
it helps like
right,
right away.
yeah,
Yeah.
too much information is actually a big problem. People think that you need to stay up to date all the time, and you need more information, and that's not correct. You only need so much, and if it's super important, it'll probably filter down to you anyway. So that'd be the first thing. But in terms of the main things, I would say to everyone is to understand your potential. Even if you haven't fulfilled even a small percentage of it, and you are not really close to where you want to be in your career, your health, your finances, your relationships, etc., understand you've got potential, right? You have the potential to do it. You could have $0 in your bank account. You could have minus dollars in your bank account. You could be overweight. You could be, this. You could be whatever your history. You've got potential, and you've got the time to fulfill it, right? So the focus should be on trying to maximize your potential mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, everything. If you take small steps every day to get better at that and learn a new skill, right? Learn how to do something that is valuable to other people, and just keep building, create and build, right? You have people who create and build. And if you're, I think this is true especially with men. If men aren't building, they're normally destroying.
Wow. I feel like that's really important. Yeah.
Yeah. If men are not building, they are normally destroying. And we're really good at both.
Yeah.
Um, so you want to be building something, right? Like whether that is like literally building something with your hands, or creating a business, or building your body, or just channeling that channeling that testosterone and masculine energy
Yeah.
into
It has
something
to go somewhere, because if it lays
wholesome
around, yeah.
and productive and good. Because if you don't, it will come out somewhere, and it's more likely to come out in a destructive way, right? At the extreme, of course, you've got people who go out and commit atrocities, right? But even at a more minor scale, right? Who are those people who are in the YouTube comments downvoting everything and writing hateful comments to strangers and going on Twitter and hiding behind avatars and just sitting there all day writing hateful messages to Zuby, hateful messages to Chrissy? Like, I'm talking to you, right? Like, that's right. No one, that person is squandering their potential, right? They're just destroying. They're just seeking to tear down rather than build up. With all that same time, all that same energy, even the same tools, you've already got the internet. You've already got social media. You're already on YouTube. You could make a YouTube channel, right? You could make something. You could create something. So make sure that energy is getting channeled in the right direction. And then I guess beyond that is and persevere. Stuff does take time. And everything takes longer than you want it to. So keep persevering, keep moving forward. Don't get discouraged. And surround yourself with good people as much as you can. If you don't have good people around you in the real world, surround yourself with good people online. It might sound kind of weird, but like follow good people and people who inspire you, even on social media, etc. Watch their videos, listen to their podcasts, and that will filter through.
And that's not creating an echo chamber. That is like whose messages are lifting you up. Yeah. And we all know the feeling, it's whether it's like memes on Instagram with like a sunset and like, I mean, sometimes like that helps, or just like, oh, this person is just funny. I don't really know where they stand politically, or this music just makes me feel good and it makes me motivated.
Yeah. Do stuff that makes you feel good afterwards, right? If you do something and it makes you feel like crap after, then that's probably bad sign. That's a sign of a destructive habit. But if you do it and it makes you feel good, like this, excluding like some drugs or something,
you're like, mushrooms.
Excluding that, then yeah, like that's a good sign. And look to help, see how you can help people, because ultimately, if you want to be successful, the more value you can add to other people's lives, the more successful you're going to be. So even if your goal is to earn money, don't think of it as earning money. Think of it as, okay, how can I be of service to people? How can I add value to their lives through whatever talents or skills or abilities that I have? And if you frame it that way, then in the long term, yeah, things will work out for you.
And I think it is really important to reframe how your relationship with money, like this book that I'm reading. And when I read books, it's like, it sometimes takes a really long time. Like I'll stop in the middle, I'll start reading another book, I'll forget, it'll be in my purse, water will spill on it, and then 6 months later I'll pick it up. But it was this book that I think it was called like You Are a Badass at Making Money or something. And it was like, don't think of money, just I got to get a lot of money. Just think of money in terms of like, what will this money allow me to do and create and serve others, and how can it help me like get to my ultimate goal, right? Like my fullest evolution. You know, so I think that helps, because I know I was raised like my family, all my parents ever talked about was like, money doesn't grow on trees, and turn the AC off, and like if you don't like it, throw on a sweater. And it was like I grew up kind of afraid and weird about money, and I think it's like helpful to rethink when you separate from your parents, like, okay, well, how do I really feel about stuff, and check in on those like unconscious beliefs and patterns.
Yeah,
you know?
Definitely.
If anybody has not heard any of your music at all, or knows nothing about you, if somehow they haven't seen your video, your deadlifting video, where can you point people? What albums are out right now of yours? Where can they find you?
Okay.
Like, how much time do you have?
Yeah, sure. So my music is on everything. I have 5 albums and 3 EPs, and my latest single, Okay Dude, which is out now. So those are on Spotify, Apple Music, iTunes, Tidal, wherever you listen. If you want to check out my podcast, you can get that on some of the same platforms. It's called Real Talk with Zubi. That comes out every Friday, new episodes. And you can follow me on all social media at Zuby Music, Zuby Music. I'm on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, all of them the same, Zuby Music. So you will find
and you have a fitness book, right?
Yeah, well, yes, absolutely. Yeah, Strong Advice, Zuby's Guide to Fitness for Everybody. Sold over 2,000 copies, totally independently now. So yeah, that's available on my website, teamzuby.com, TEAMZUBY. So yeah, people can
I love it.
there.
And if you could point to, okay, like if you like these musicians, then you'll like my music. Or who do you think are for people who just have no idea?
Okay. Tech Nine, Nas, Jay-Z, LL Cool J, The Far Side, Gangstar, Kanye West. If you like any of them, there's a good chance you like my music.
Great. Zuby, thank you so much for coming on.
Most welcome, Chris.
You're the best. If I'm ever in London, I don't know where you live.
I love how Americans think.
Oh God,
London is its own country.
I was trying not to sound dumb this whole time. Well, there we go.
I'm in Southampton, but London's cool too.
Ooh, fancy. We have one of those out here in Long Island too.
Yeah, I know. You guys stole all the names.
All right. Thanks so much, Zuby.
Take care.